Looking for action-packed fun? Come experience the excitement at NOLA Motorsports Park, just minutes from downtown New Orleans.
Feel the thrill of racing on our world-class karting tracks. Perfect for all ages and skill levels. Planning a special event? Host your next party or corporate outing with us for a unique and exciting experience.
And that's not all. Keep an eye out for an exhilarating new attraction coming soon to NOLA Motorsports Park. This October, don't miss our spine-chilling zombie paintball event. Gear up and take on the undead in an epic paintball battle.
Ready to join the fun? Visit NOLAmotorsports.com to book your adventure today. NOLA Motorsports Park,
where excitement never stops. Chocolate lovers rejoice. Scandalous Chocolates has arrived in New York with 4 sensational new varieties.
That's right. They aren't just chocolates. They're an experience. Premium edibles crafted with the finest ingredients, blending sweet and savory sophistication.
We're talking 20 milligrams premium chocolate lips, sleekly packaged, perfect for on-the-go indulgence. Nuts, fruits, caramel, it's an affair you can take anywhere.
At just $10, it's an affordable luxury. Fair trade, single origin, gluten-free, and vegan. Find Scandalous Chocolates at quality dispensaries like Travel Agency in Gotham.
Scandalous Chocolates. When you're in New York, awaken your senses and delight your palate.
The affair you could take anywhere. Scandalous. Are you looking for a unique New Orleans experience?
Check out New Orleans artist Frenchie at FrenchieLive.com.
Featuring original artworks, prints, and more. See it all at www.frenchielive.com.
Live event bookings are available. The gallery is open by appointment only.
And for private showings or parties, email info@frenchielive.com.
Experience the art. Experience the artist. Frenchie Gallery. www.frenchielive.com.
Hey, Jay, you hungry? Like really hungry?
Yeah, I'm in the mood for oysters. Hey, let's check out Trenas.
Oysters? I love oysters.
Trenas features a wide variety of local oysters. Char, grilled, baked, and on the half shell, even the famous oyster log.
Oyster log? I heard about that. You get 6 each of their signature baked oysters, plus 6 fried, all on a cypress slab?
42 oysters. We are going to love it. Trenas is located in the Hotel Intercontinental, 444 St. Charles Avenue, right on the parade route.
Sweet. When can we go?
7 days a week for lunch and dinner, plus a mimosa brunch on weekends, and happy hour daily from 3 to 6.
Happy hour? Nah, you're talking my language.
Great drinks, great wine list. An award-winning chef, Matthew Farmer, leads a team serving the best seafood in New Orleans. Trenas.
Trenas. Got it. Let's go.
All right.
Let it rip, potato chip.
Hey, we're here live from the Fan Cave with the Only Good Vibes News Network. We've got a special guest in the studio today, Mr. Joseph Makkos. Welcome to the show, Joseph.
Hey, so good to be here. Wow, what a spot.
But we got a vibe, y'all. We got a vibe. I can tell by your smile that you're in my tribe. We got a vibe.
And this is the time when Whistle generally selects a Zen card, sort of set the tone for the whole interview.
We clear the air, all negative energy, Joseph, and then we get into it. And for folks who are just tuning in and don't realize what we do, Jamie and I, we put positive vibes in people's lives by ways of people like Joseph and other folks we call characters, as what Dr. John would say, of New Orleans, like quintessential New Orleans. One time for Mac Rabenack.
One time for Mac Rabenack, every time.
And we spotlight people because we feel like the news reports on, like, let's just say 20% of people do bad things, right, in Louisiana, because that's all we know. So with that in mind, they report on it over 50%. So what Jamie and I do, we report on the 80% of people that are doing positive things. And that's what you do, Joseph. And we're excited to have you here. And what we do is cleanse the energy with this, cleanse their energy, easy for me to say, with this Palo Santos and Sage. And we pull cards. And the cards have like a saying on it. And the cards that I pulled already was, the first one was truth. Truth. It says, what is, what is not, is not. No amount of wishing or wanting can change that simple fact. And it's just, you just let that sit and resonate in you and your thoughts. And like, I'll be an example. So basically it's saying where you are and what you're doing is what it is, and what it isn't. That's almost a Dr. John one, because he has a quote that says, "It is what it is,
You know,
and it ain't what it ain't."
Dr. John had some real Zen ways about him. I'll tell you what.
Yes,
I once participated writing a song with him called "If you ain't doing nothing, if you ain't doing something, you're doing something."
Oh, wow. Dude, so wait a minute. You collaborated
with Dr. John, yeah.
Wow.
Well, my first foray into the music business, he was on a record I produced for James Andrews.
Oh, wait. I think I was doing some whistling on that.
I was also the first person ever to record you on a record whistling. I produced that session.
Joseph, we cracked so many things here. I'm sure we're going to get uncovered with some of those. Let's get this second Zen card done, and then we'll jump in cannonball style. The next one is sincerity. Allow your actions to flow from the innocence of your heart. Then sincerity is assured. Follow the way, live authentically, and restore innocence to the world. I like that. It's just saying be sincere.
Truth and sincerity. What a pair.
Yeah. Joseph?
It's a really good
That's
pair.
your word. Yeah. That's all you, man. That's your energy. So, yeah. Joseph, welcome.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like the idea of truth. You know, I think in some ways I'm at a quest for truths that, in a certain sense, being an archivist and being a keeper of a history of a place and a time and a people, people have often come to me for truths.
Now, I know you've had articles written about you in the Times-Picayune and in nationwide literary magazines and stuff about your work as an archivist, but a lot of our listeners don't know a lot about that. Could you talk a little bit about your collection and how that makes you sort of an arbiter of truth in a way?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you this 30-second breakdown.
Give me the elevator pitch.
Yeah, imagine one morning 10 years ago, I saw an ad on Craigslist. You guys remember Craigslist?
Yes.
This was more like 15 years
10.
ago.
It was 10
for
yeah,
real?
10, yeah, 10.
Wow.
And it was for a newspaper archive. And I didn't, they showed some pictures of it, these newspapers in tubes, in these airtight plastic tubes. And I quickly zipped off an email. Just kind of one of those like, I might as well just do this. Just to do it, You never know. You don't ask for something. I can always say no. And I got a phone call like less than 30 minutes later, just like my phone rings, and it's this person, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to come look at this like right now?" And they put a fire under it. It was like we have to find a home for this in X many days. And I rode my bike as quickly as I could from the corner where Bacchanal's was to the street behind Betsy's Pancake House. Right. Imagine riding your bike as quickly.
Rocheblave.
Yeah, imagine as quickly as you can.
All the way Canal and Rocheblave.
Yeah, right. And I get a flat tire, 9/10 of the way there, and I finally get to the spot, and they have this massive newspaper archive, all meticulously preserved in these mylar sleeves and these airtight plastic tubes, and
But not just any newspaper.
It was the Times-Picayune from 1888 to 1930, and
My goodness,
the Daily Picayune. And then it merged with the Times Democrat in 1914 and became what we know as the Times-Picayune, kind of. That newspaper entity in 1914. But it was this massive newspaper archive. And it turns out it was the British Library's newspaper archives that ended up back in New Orleans through the exchange of a few hands. And there it was. It was like this thing that kind of catalyst that sort of changed my life.
How many tubes total?
Oh my God, it was like 30,000.
Whoa.
It's 40 some years of history, right? It's like about 1 million pages of history for those years, 1888 to 1930. And that's like, it's a real moment in time history that's not just about New Orleans history, but it's about world history and American history, like 1888. Like, think about the way things were in that period, and then 1930. Like that 42 years is kind of it's the invention of the modern era.
So I was curious about back in 1800. What were some of the headlines?
Oh, okay. So
if you can remember any.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of is like a different language. There would be like, there'd be fires. There'd be a headline for a fire. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of business news, of course. They're writing about sort of like at that point in time, it was just becoming its identity as a newspaper. It was just kind of like mixing news reporting with fiction, with road trip stories, with fashion, with culture pieces. Think about this. Think about the idea that like nobody who's a person in the city, unless you're like a business owner that's of prominence, or like a political appointee or a political council member or something. If you're a common people, even like, uptown folks that were affluent, no one's being written about in the paper. So this woman who ran the newspaper then, Eliza J. Nicholson, she created this idea of a society page, and she would write about like kind of the business of people, the who's it, what's it, the bit to do about town. And at first they were pissed that they were getting written about. They're like, why are we in the paper? Why are they writing our business? But it wasn't that long until they realized that being in the paper was cool.
That's what I was going to say.
Right?
I would feel like it's an honor, considering that there's not a lot of people. I don't know how the negativity went with the news back in those days, but I've got to think that most of the things probably were informative. Most of them, like you said, a fire or just things that happened, right?
Things that happened, yeah. Reporting, I think it wasn't until the 1890s. Like you have to think about it, in the 1880s, even the images that would be in the paper would only be maybe 1 or 2 columns wide. It wasn't until like the 1890s where the images in the paper even got larger. And we're talking not even with photographs yet. We're talking just illustrations.
That's what I was going to say, because a lot of times when you think about artists, like one of our sponsors, Frenchie, I always often tell people that he is like a guy that showed up before there was a camera, and they would just draw whatever happened. So these guys would kind of do some of that same.
That's exactly what's going on.
They would send, just say a building caught on fire, right? They would send a sketch artist. They would send a reporter, and they would send an artist who would be sketching the scene. So
almost like not almost, but like a corporate reporter, right? Like when you can't get into courts and they have a person there sketching the piece or whatever they displayed.
Absolutely. And before photos were in paper, I think what they would do is they would have photographs, but photography wasn't part of the newspaper printing process yet. So they would have a illustrator do an illustration of a face of a person. Say it was a reoccurring figure or a national figure. They would do a cut of that where it would be actually like a print block that would be a sketch of them.
This is fascinating to me. Just almost feel like somewhat of a matrix that's in your mind. Like, you touch things and you're like, it goes back, right? Like when you went in there, you saw all these things. I'm wondering, did you just feel super overwhelmed? You felt joy? Did you feel like I want to be a part of this? Or did you just like, man, this is just interesting? Did something hit you in your gut? Because you seem to know a lot of information in just 10 years that you've done this. So it seems like it's almost like this is a job almost like cut out for you.
You just described what you just said. You just described the feelings I go through every day. You're like, oh, are you excited about it? Are you like taken aback by it? Are you overwhelmed by it? Are you excited? Do you want to be part of it? I feel that every day. Like that is what it is. Like, there is a lot of information, right? And lately it's been about getting the information to the right people, or my inbox is actually got a bunch of emails I need to respond to right now. People who reached out this week, from museums to individuals, people who are looking for information. That's something that they need to complete their task, to complete what they're working on. So this is like a lot of responsibility, right? I try to have fun with it. I think if I don't have fun with it, then what's the point, right? Like having fun with it, meaning like, why did we go and dig in the archive and find all 16 William Faulkner short stories? Why were we looking at these Mardi Gras images from 1925 to see if we could spot him in one of the this photo that popped up that we think we spotted him in one of this Mardi Gras scene from 1925. It's a curiosity, right? You have to approach it with a curiosity like a child, because let's get back to the T. There's truth, lowercase t, and there's truth, capital T. And when an author or a researcher or historian is trying to create a moment where they're trying to recreate and convince you that something happened, right? It takes a real kind of type of wizardry and really a lot of work to get at the capital T. A lot of times history books come out and they might have a certain type of history, but until you understand the process of the historian, did you tell this entire narrative by looking at one newspaper's voice? Because if you did, then you didn't tell the real story, because that's only one voice of one newspaper. So that's lowercase t, although sometimes they might be presenting it as uppercase T. So it's really important to consider these things and understand that when you're doing history and you're reading a certain account of something, it's the news as it was reported.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily capital T truth.
So let me just throw this out there. I fucking love history. Like it just fascinates me, all kinds of it. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you forever. And it's like so many things. I try and focus on not thinking about a question when a person's talking, but I can't help but like fight that with you because I just want to ask you so many questions. So the balance of that is almost like AI in a sense, right? Because it's just going to go grab that
funny
information.
You should mention AI. That was exactly where I was about to mention next with Joseph, because Joseph actually has an AI built into the plan of this archive now.
Yeah, there is a plan. Let's take before we get into the big AI conversation. Let's talk about the internet for just 30 seconds.
Much as you want.
And let's consider something. Let's really, really consider that the version of history that's been presented by this thing called the internet, right? You remember growing up and everyone had those encyclopedias that
the
was
Britannicas,
yes. Everyone had the Funkin' Wagnall, the Britannicas, right? And for years in the 90s and 2000s, they would be at thrift stores,
Right.
And nobody wanted that anymore because it was part of the thing to be updated every so many years, right? And I think the internet still presents a really serious false promise that all information is at our fingertips, okay? And
that it's valid.
That it's valid, right? And that it's presenting like what the conglomerate presents, meaning all the sources, that they're presenting something that's an accurate history, right? But haven't you all been in a group of people where you're doing a groupthink exercise and you're trying to come up with the best name or theme for something? And the best idea is not the one that gets picked because there's 10 people in the room and because of politics and because of the way who suggested it. Sometimes it's the mediocre idea that gets picked.
Sure, that everyone can kind of agree on it.
Yeah. It's not always the best.
I think that's 100% accurate because a lot of people just go with, say it the best one, like you said, is the best. You won't do it because we feel like we need to make everybody happy rather than just like say 4 people say yes and 2 people say no. We got to go with the 4, even though the 2 that said no might have the great idea.
Yeah, that's the internet in a certain sense, right? Because, we have a thing and we have this sort of like receptors for dopamine hits, right? Whatever app it is that you're into, whatever social media that you decide to subscribe to, or it subscribes to you, right? And it's subscribing to you, meaning the the more people like your thing, the more that platform is subscribing to you as an individual, right? And you're going to get a lot of hits, and you're going to get, the way that it all works, it's more. They say what happens in the first 5 to 10 minutes of your post is what dictates how big or how much it's seen by certain people. However that works. It's kind of a false promise of like picking the best thing or being the tastemaker, right? Sometimes that the better thing is just simply not the thing that everyone's looking at, or it's a simulacra of the thing, meaning a version of 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 a thing. It's like young people might hear a song and they think, oh my God, that song's so great, but they don't realize that it's actually like a Hank Williams song from like 70 years ago. You know what I mean?
Or even like the best simulacra idea I see floating around right now is Dubai chocolate. Everybody has their own brand of Dubai chocolate. And I'm sure at some point there was Dubai chocolate that was really good, that was made in Dubai, probably by a little shop there that had, like the nuts inside the chocolate, and it was very high quality. But now Dubai chocolate is just like another candy bar.
Totally. Yeah. It just gets repeated. So back to the internet, right? So we have this thing where a source may have been validated by someone, but that source may have not be valid, right? And then now with the age of AI, and I'm not an anti-AI person. I actually think that AI is, everyone thinks that it's one thing, and it's absolutely not that one thing. And what everyone thinks it's this one thing is that they either think it's this generative thing, where it's just you type something in and it creates something for you. That's just generative AI. They think it's this big brain that is connected to all these things, that there's this doomsday thing around it, But I think it goes in line with this specific line of things. There's literacy, there's technological literacy, there's computer literacy, and now there's going to be AI literacy or AI illiteracy. And it's just another level of that of the human computer engagement, right? You can use a computer to help you do a thing. We all have our phones, right? That's the big engagement that we do every day. Sometimes we have a watch. That's our wearable. Pretty soon they're going to have a little button, like a tricorder, like a little on your, like Star Trek, and you're just going to be able to talk to your AI to be able to ask it to do things for you.
Well, I mean,
it's already on your phone or your watch.
People have them in their ears.
Yeah, it's
earbuds.
There. Yeah, it's there. It's happening. So the question is like, what will you use AI for, right? That's the way I say to people is like, let's not just say, oh, it's bad, it's terrible, I'm not going to use it. Like, no, actually, everyone can actually change their life using AI. Like, if depending on how you use it. And the way that I think a lot of people just initially ran to use it is like, oh, I'm going to upload 10 photos of myself, and then it's going to put me in ancient Mesopotamia and make all these insane. Well, you know what happened when everyone did that? You just gave 10 photos of yourself to the FBI.
Oh yeah,
that's what happened when everyone did that. Those people who took that data, they absolutely shared that with whoever was going to buy it. So that was, remember, if you're not the product, remember if you're not paying for it, then you're the product, right? So it's something where you have to really consider, like, what are we doing here, right? You got to be literate first. You got to be computer literate. You got to be technologically literate, and then you get to this AI thing, and it's like, my goodness, like what are these tools doing, And I think it's with everything. There's always a low hanging fruit end of the technology. And then there's this higher level things. Like, I'm sure there's people who are using AI to add more money to their bank account. There's people who are using it to learn a musical instrument. There's people who are using it to help them read, or
what are you using it for?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Good question, Jamie. Good question, Jamie. Okay. Now that we're in. And all of this just changed, by the way. I did 3.5 years of school at LSU. I didn't know what I was doing there, but I did computer science. I did I did library sciences, I did Louisiana history, I did cultural theory, right? That's what I was sort of, working on. I'm going to try to go back and wrap up the degree next year. But a huge thing changed. When we first got the archive, to get back to the archive and the idea, and we'll bring it back to the internet in a bit, but when we first got the archive, it was like this, there's so many different ideas of what was possible. And when we went to go look at what those ideas were, you have to put a price tag on all your ideas and figure out how much it costs. And we did that, and it was like a little bit overwhelming, but, kind of stayed at the project over the years and did basically a ton of proof of concepts over the last 10 years of all these different ways that the archive could be used. And it's just sort of in the last couple years where the cost of doing business has come down. The cost of storage has come down. You remember your first little 32 megabyte USB, storage drive that cost you $50, and you're like holding onto that thing like it's got all your papers on it. It's got all your papers on it. You're putting everything's on there. But now it's like you can put like 32 terabytes on a little tiny thing in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
So and yes, it was going fast in the 90s, but it really blew up the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exponential curve.
Absolutely. So now you can put, you can have an entire life of photos that you've in your pocket now. It's weightless, right?
I mean, I'm recording, 3 video feeds and audio feeds on
to
this little tiny thing.
About the size of a matchbook.
I've got 16 hours left to record on it.
Yeah, it's about the size.
And I've already
of
done it. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. It used to be something the size, of like a tower to hold all that.
As big as the computer.
As big as the computer, yeah. As big as the computer.
And you can clean it and reload it too, right?
And you can delete it and reload it, of course.
Crazy.
And constantly just improving. I mean, this is probably obsolete already, Like I could probably get much more memory in this size for the same price at this point, even though I just bought it a month ago.
Exactly. So it's going fast. So now where we are, it's kind of the perfect formula of all the things. We can digitize it. We can rapid capture it, which means that we don't necessarily have to scan every single page. There's some stuff that we do want to scan for the archive, but we can rapid capture it. We can do thousands of pages in a few days, right? We can digitize it at high resolution, which means that the smallest little thing can be blown up to be the biggest thing. When we're digitizing it now, we've sent like a data set off to a bunch of different data companies that do data. Like every time we get contacted by a data company or someone who makes a connection, and I get messages through LinkedIn all the time. I just send them the same data set to see how accurate they all are doing the little pilot that they do with it. They put it in their system, and they do things called like needle in the haystack searches, where you think of the biggest book you have here, and you find one little word or phrase in the book, and you're like, oh, it's never going to find this, right? And they search, and boom, it finds it, right? So that's called like a needle in the haystack searcher, like a broken word or something, where they search it. They're coming back saying it's all 99% searchable. It's all needle in the haystack searches are all coming back positive. Like they're able to do essentially really super hyper accurate searches of all of our scans. And
so you could just search someone's name, and then any time that they appeared in the paper would say
it would come up if we did. So when we have all this entire corpus of this 42 years scanned, it'll be beyond searchable. It'll be searchable, and it'll be able to be modeled. So if you're searching for something specific, like I'll give you an example. I'll give you a good one, actually. These two guys wrote this book. It's John McCusker and Shane Leaf. They wrote this Mardi Gras Indian history book. It came out like 5 years ago from the University of Mississippi Press, I want to say. Might have been with LSU, actually. It's called Up from the Spirit, I think, or something like that. And it's the history of the Mardi Gras Indians, but they did a very specific thing that was really, really intelligent. Shane is a linguistics professor, and John's a jazz historian. So what they did was they did a language study of the language that surrounded the Mardi Gras Indian community.
Right, because it's very unique. They have
key
their own words. Yeah.
Right? And so you can't get at the real history of something unless you get at the actual words that were used to talk about it. And John called me one day and said, hey, look, we think we found something really important. And in the public record, the bottom corner of that page in the scan that was in the official public record that they got that you can subscribe to or get through the public library was bent, right? And you've looked at a scanner of a book where part of it's bent in and you can't make out those words. Well, it was the whole bottom of this article that was in the bottom right-hand column of the paper from 1896. And he's like, can you find this article? So I went into the archive and I said, give me a day. It was just a few hours later, I found it. And I read it and I took a photograph of it and I read it and I sent it over to John. And here's what it was. It's an arrest. It's a report written by the paper, by a reporter who was sent to the jail to interview these 7 masking Indians who were arrested in Algiers.
Wow.
Okay? And it's their story told from jail. So if they didn't get arrested that day, they would have never been there to tell their story. And I'm pretty sure that John said that it was literally the smoking gun that they had been looking for. It's the first mention ever of Zulu. And that in that article, they say we've been doing this for 5 years, which proves 1891 to be true. It's the first ever mention in the Daily Picayune of the Mardi Gras Indians from 1896.
Wow, man. See that again, the history is just fascinating. It almost feels like, I went and did a friend of mine did it for me. It was like a family tree. And a lot of the things I would think go like kind of parallel with you. Like the way that they found out a lot of things was World War I, registration for grandfathers, World War II, and death certificates of people. And now, how do you feel about census? Do you feel like that's kind of a map or way that you can find some things too? Or did they even have census in 1800s or not really?
They do. I think they have them. I think some of that stuff does come up like in Ancestry.com. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of that stuff is loaded into those things, manifests, and census reports. I think census, you gotta understand all that stuff in a time and a place, and who's in political power when they're running the census. I think there's a story. There's the word historiography, which is like the history of the telling of history. So it's just something you have to understand when you're looking at any source for research. You have to assess the source's validity and assess its provenance, meaning like, yes, this is a census, but is there any studies about the census that says it's biased in this way or this way or that way?
Or the person that's at the door who's answering, right? That's like what you said in the beginning. Like you just can't pick one newspaper and say, hey, this is it. You got to go and figure out the whole ball of wax.
Right. Who owned the newspaper, what perspective they were writing from in relation to what was going on politically at the time.
Guys, do you remember when the census was going on, like during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
So I lived in the quarter, and I noticed that there was these census people who were out and about, right? Who were like out and about, like around, like counting people and doing. And the census people, like they literally stalked me.
I was about to say
they waited outside my house.
Dude, I was gonna say I would be if I was a census person and I knew you or got wind of who you were, I'd be like, picking you for information. That's exactly what it was.
I had like it was like kind of when things opened up for a minute. I had like a little like sale at my house, like a sidewalk sale, and the census people showed up at my sidewalk sale.
So what were you selling at the sidewalk sale?
I was selling all sorts of stuff, like little prints that I make, and I was selling all sorts of just I probably selling off a bunch of records and selling off a bunch of VHS tapes or whatever the hell I was selling. I don't know.
So no newspapers, no cool like archive.
I don't sell the archives off. No, I do have a bunch of stuff that some stuff that I've been selling off recently. It's when I got that big archive from those people. They also gave me this big archive of Harper's Weekly, which is a nationally syndicated paper that was out of New York, I believe, from 1857 to around 1900, and it kind of changed into Harper's Magazine and Harper's Bazaar. But it was a newspaper, and it has these beautiful woodcuts by this famous illustrators of the day, like Thomas Nast, right? That's the guy who he drew the first Republican elephant and Democratic donkey. He drew the first Santa Claus. He's this like political illustrator guy who's like he drew all this political cartoons, and they were printed in these like kind of magazine size papers. And all that stuff is really interesting, especially like the Louisiana related Civil War era and Reconstruction era stuff. It's intense.
So my great-great-great-grandfather, Alexander Manuel, was in Louisiana in 1835. So that's like 30-something years before the Civil War. So it leads me to believe that my mother's side of the family, they were free people of color. So that means that they were able to go to the symphony and opera over in Treme and all that stuff. The first place in the United States of America was here in New Orleans. So a lot of those archives that you have, I'm seriously interested in. Like, I mean, it's fascinating for me with history, but just the plethora of knowledge that you have on certain things. I mean, I feel like we can kidnap this guy and have like a 3-hour show. You know what I mean? But I'm serious. And it's an amazing thing because it really tells a story. You know, like there's a lot of things people don't know their history. They don't know like what happened or why the French was here, why the Spanish were here, and all those things go right back to like just let you know exactly how it happened, how it began to happen, and what's the capital T, you know.
The modern sort of the it ain't there no more, right? Mm-hmm. That's really kind of stops around the 30s, 40s, because those people are all in their 70s, 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? So if you're born in the 30s, you're in your 90s now, right? So the it ain't there no more stuff kind of is like K and B, and they don't go back quite this far because no one's living to say,
right.
It ain't there no more. Sloppy Joe's. There's a place called Sloppy Joe's, and it was like an old bar in the French Quarter, and it was this tiny little skinny bar, and they had really a huge collection of liquor, and it was, it was like there's so much stuff from this era specifically, like pre-Great Depression. And remember, that was Prohibition era, right? In New Orleans, it was like Le Bon Temps Roulette the whole time. Like, they didn't care. It was, it was going on the whole time.
Prohibition never quite hit here.
Not really. The mayor was running this place like a liquor store. It was like let the good times roll here, and everybody knew that. And there was a battle between the feds and the stateys and all that. And it was, it was like a place where people still came during that time to enjoy themselves. And I swear there's so much stuff from this era, specifically before the Great Depression, before Prohibition, that is just, like if we really want to get into it, I got stories like that will melt you. Like seriously, like there's all sorts of crazy stuff that's going on in the teens, in the 20s. Think about this. Think about in 1925, right? You got like a 20-something-year-old William Faulkner could have crossed on the path in the French Quarter with the 15-year-old Carlos Marcelo.
Mm-hmm. Wow. For real, yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, that's real.
That's real, okay? That they could have crossed on the street, like there's all these things happening, like we found this woman who was known as she's written in the newspaper as being known as the Joan of Arc of bootleggers. She's the female bootlegger who ran her business outside the 12-mile limit. So it was all legal. Okay?
Oh, man.
She's known.
When is the book coming out? Yeah. Come on, dude. Like, you got us on the edge of our seat.
Tales from the archive.
I think it would be very cool to do. I've got a bunch of things under development, that I can talk to you guys off the radar, offline that I love to tell you about. But I really think like there's all these folks who have really gone out, like really people who I really respect. Chris Champagne did this amazing Untold New Orleans, and he dug deep.
Chris is a great writer.
He dug really deep for some very cool stuff that no one knew about. He had some bombshells in there, like cool stuff that is forgotten to time. I think we could really do this, but I think I would have to do it like maybe decade by decade or year by year, and maybe say, Nancy Dixon gave me this great idea. There's so much untapped aside from the stories and the real tangible documentary. And I truly believe as a budding filmmaker that the future of filmmaking is documentary, especially in a place like New Orleans, where the deeper we go, the deeper we dig, we find all this amazing, this guy, John Baptiste Jourdain, this African-American crime guy who solved the missing kid from the 1890s. He's like an early Sherlock Holmes, but he's Creole and from the 1890s. Like,
wow, really? This is a real person.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
Madlock.
Yeah, there is, and it's like there's so many things that I think if we keep uncovering and digging and looking for stuff and uncovering new layers of things. Nancy said, "Oh, there's all this fiction," and I'm talking like just short stories that people were writing in the time that were only written for the local paper. Imagine what that stuff's going to be like. Because if the world was becoming electrified and it was like the time of like
the automobiles emerging.
Well, the automobiles emerging and aviation's happening, and there's spiritualists are battling with the, there's like the whole like Victorian era of spiritualism and mediums and all that, and then you got the same time Harry Houdini, who's this magician, is rising, and you think about this era of the electrification of the world in America, and it unlocks a whole different time of when technology was changing the way that humans engaged the world.
I'm stunned. I really am. Like I'm pretty much stunned. So one of the things I want to dial back into, just to the person who's listening for the first time and just finding out about you. As a New Orleans, I'm very, very thrilled that there's folks like yourself, and this is just amazing what you do, and it's very important. And so what I'm going to ask you is, with that in mind, with you like being a keeper of all the history, do you have a place where you have it all secured and people could show, you could like have a museum of these things where people want to go and dig deeper, or a website that you can tell people to go to? Because I'm sure a bunch of people are very curious about how you got here, because that's what I'm thinking. Because I think it's just a blessing to have someone to do this. And I just like to think, like, how did you find your way to New Orleans and then get overwhelmed with, not overwhelmed, it's me, I'm overwhelmed, like just an overwhelming situation of just history that's long before us, and then
we've only really scratched the surface too, because after he got that archive, then he started archiving other things. So he's also got one of the largest collections of 45 records that I've ever seen, of New Orleans original 45 records that I've ever seen.
Look at his eyes. He's like, yeah.
So you had two questions.
30,000 or so.
You had two questions sort of built in there.
Yeah. The one was, how did you get here? And then the second one is, how do you, can people see
this? So absolutely. Like, I'm the son of an antique dealer from Cleveland, Ohio. Like, I am the son of, that is what it is, because
it's in your blood.
Yeah, absolutely. My brother is a light bulb collector. He's literally like deals with early American electric switches, light bulbs, beautiful things that you have to imagine that some of this stuff back in the 1880s and 1890s was handmade, right? Like someone working on a bench to make one socket. You know what I mean? This isn't industrial things. These are things that were handmade that can be taken apart with screws. And, it's like he's fascinated by this like early electric and early American and lighting and light bulbs. It's like his fascination. Me, I kind of came to New Orleans feeling inspired by my friends who I had studied with, like with Jamie and his brother in Spain, and I had been so overwhelmed by the kindness of my New Orleans family that I came here. And as soon as I came
Thank
here,
you, Jay.
as soon as I came, there's a whole story about this guy. And as soon as I came here, Jamie will tell you, I was already kind of scratching the surface looking for old print shit, because because I noticed that after Katrina, every neighborhood had a print shop. Every neighborhood had a little print shop somewhere in the neighborhood or whatever. And you might have known a guy who was, hey, that guy prints there or whatever, and there were dozens of print shops around the city. And I noticed that after Katrina, there was like, I was just kind of like talked to a few printers and found out like, yeah, there's that place, and that place all boarded up. And it was just really about communicating with people to find out if what they're doing with it. Cause a lot of it ended up in dumpsters. And it was just, I jumped in at the right place at the right time. If you remember, there was one on Frenchman Street, the Laborde and Sons print shop, and it was tagged up. Remember, the front of it was tagged up for years. And you could look in that little window and you could see that little office and there was like what was going on in there. I got all the stuff out of that guy's shop because I just called the number on the front of the building like 10 times until he finally called me back. I was like, what do you want, kid? I was like,
now when you think about a print shop, like you might think, oh yeah, they have copy machines and things, but this isn't what
Screen printing?
These were letter block,
vintage,
press printing.
Old school presses where it's a sheet of paper and it's sandwiched in this form between that with ink and, this is like old school stuff.
So all these big block letters, and you'd have to typeset them and put them together, and then you'd sit them in the press and run the press over the piece of paper you lay on top to print it. Like this is an old school method.
These are ways back. It reminds me of the cliche saying, necessity is the mother of invention. So a lot of these people, they had a necessity for it, so they just invented it. Your brother studies the bulbs. Like that's like literally that. Like it's like, okay, we need light.
We need
so
sockets.
Somebody's gonna go and put something together.
That place had 4 generations of print stuff in it. It was originally where Three Muses was. That was the original print shop, and then they moved it down the street to where Bambula's is now. That's where it is. It's in that spot. And that was the old print shop. And it was 3 generations of stuff. It was like the original stuff that was almost like run by hydraulics, you know what I mean? With those old crazy DC motors. There was that stuff. And then there was like the next generation of stuff, more like the World War II era stuff. And then there was like offset presses. Those all got sold and went to South America because the South American printers still run the old printing presses because they know that those printing presses can be maintained and that the parts can be machined and that they can run those things forever.
See, I was going to ask, is there, like, how we have buildings and things and they have historical plaques and stuff. Is there any places where these printers, like, they maybe, like, we know this is special and this was used by so-and-so, so let's not touch it or leave it as there's a few presses and stuff like that in the state museum's collection.
Okay. They have like a dozen presses, maybe half a dozen presses of old printing presses. I have a press at the Jazz Museum, a fully functional restored press that I restored while I was an artist in residence there during the pandemic. I restored a printing press and we did some printing. We're going to bring it back. Actually, we're bringing it back for the Jazz Museum Gala in December, for a Storyville themed event that they're doing.
Nice.
And we're going to have some handbills running off the old printing press.
So what's that date again and where will it be?
I think that's the 6th of December, Saturday the 6th for the Jazz Museum's Gala.
Hey, we can come over there right after my show at Buffa's. I have a special thing
go,
for
right
our
down the
friends
street.
on the afternoon, a little brunch there at Buffa's.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a gate. I'm sure there's a gate I can get y'all in.
Oh yeah,
we'll get you to come out.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely support you because this is a beautiful thing, and I think that this is something that's a really hidden jewel. And what I was gonna say, the same way like gold, like people, there was gold in places before, and then now folks go into the earth and they dig and they find little nuggets and then they mine the gold. That's kind of like what you're doing, man. You're going back in the old days and you finding these things and you mining these things and you're bringing them back to life, like you on this December the 6th.
Yeah, and I want to talk just for one thing about this idea because we just applied and put together a nonprofit this year. And, I've got sort of the way that the business is structured is, a bunch of exciting things are happening. I'm doing a business incubator with Tulane right now. It's a busy semester. I'm taking history of voodoo with Sonny Patterson at Loyola. I'm doing the business incubator project at Tulane for their business incubator for the archive project. And we put together a nonprofit this year. And the reason why I want to talk about that real quick is because I want your listeners to know we do have a site. You can go to artifactor.studio right now. That's all it is. It's artifactor.studio. When you get there, it's a simple one-pager. You can click on a link that says NOLA DNA. That gives you about 12 articles and pieces that have been written about the project, okay? So artifactor.studio, you go there, there'll be a thing that'll sort of say the NOLA DNA story. You click on that, it gives a bunch of coverage of the project. But what we're about to do with artifactor.studio is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And in a certain sense, I have worked on different things with different people. It's an opportunity for us to raise a little bit of money and give New Orleanians opportunities to access the archive. And I'm very open to the idea of the way that you want to access it and what you want to do with it, right? You might want to go in and you might want to pull a bunch of Mardi Gras stuff and do a run of t-shirts. That might make us some money, that you're going to make some money too. But it's a cool project that has a social scene around it and people that are engaged with it because because we all know we like to wear the culture. It's true. We like to wear the culture. And so it's part of our vibe here. And so it could be something like that. Or it could be like, hey, we want to do references for this to do fashion because we want to get some fashion at Material Institute to do a cool fashion show with some historic images of, whatever. Or you might have an idea of a documentary that you want to work on, or you might have an idea of a book you want to work on or something. So I wanted to create this nonprofit as a structure of a way to get some money into a kitty and have some residencies where we can say, hey, we're going to give you $500 or $1,000. It's a re-granting opportunity for us to write some grants and give some money back, and not only just say, oh, well, we're going to give you archives to play with, but we're going to give you a little bit of money to start your project with. And so it's kind of like a way to give back to people and to power some cool ideas. Because it's not always about getting $5,000-$10,000. Yes, it can be for certain projects, but sometimes it's $500 or $1,000 that can get you a little bit of time and energy and space, or some materials or resources to build something. So we come with a little cash. We come with some archives. We're gonna have a cohort starting in 2026. We're gonna try to select it before the end of the year. We're gonna announce it all at our conference we're running at the Jazz Museum. It's a community-based AI conference, but we're going to announce it then, and we're going to have a little mini residency workshop for 90 minutes where we're going to run everybody through a little exercise where you're going to kind of come and learn about the archive, and you're going to build something in 90 minutes. And then we're going to use those ideas to inform where we go with the residency. But I imagine we're probably going to take on, like, say, six people next year, 4 to 6, say, artists. And we'll probably work with you artists from anywhere from a month or 2 to, it could be longer. And we want to develop some projects that are really putting this into the public eye in all different ways. I kind of want to do a fashion thing, a film thing, a publishing thing, an art thing, a clothing thing. And I think all those things could come together.
When is this AI, community-centered AI?
9, 10, 11 of November. Going to be at the New Orleans Jazz Museum. We have the museum space upstairs on the 3rd floor for our talks. And we're going to have this classroom space downstairs that's going to be workshops and lightning presentations and more of a lab think space downstairs in the classroom at the Jazz Museum. And then upstairs, we're going to have like our keynotes and our panel discussions and all that. It's the 9th, 10th, 11th of November. It's our 3rd year. I'm reviewing all the talks. We've gotten 43, as of today, we got 43 different presentations from academics and people using it for community and people who are empowering people of color to find jobs in tech. Like it's all over the place where different people are saying, hey, I'm using AI for this little thing that you never thought that it would work for this. Or I'm using AI to help you do the application process for jobs easier. I'm using AI to help lower rates of insurance. Or all these different people have submitted, and we're going through them, and the proposals are incredible, from biomimicry to AI education for kids and all these different approaches. So we created this conference that's sort of a place where conversations happen about it, to demystify, it's not a tech bro conference. It's people who are actually applying these different ways in different parts of the community, whether it's creativity or whether it's academia or whether it's for business. And I'm blown away by the buy-in, the community buy-in, the level of articulation in the proposals. It's going to be cool this year. It's our 3rd year. Last year we had 50 presentations. This year we'll have about 40 or so. First year we had it was a 1 day, but we had a couple dozen presentations. So, and we have full support of the Jazz Museum. We got some cool sponsorships, and things are rolling.
What's the actual name of the?
It's called NOAI. NOAI.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and our websites, you can just go to noai.fyi.
That's clever.
Easy to remember.
No AI.fyi.
It's run by a group called Philosophers, 1111 Philosophers, which is a group that meets at the Petit Clouet coffee shop every Sunday at 11:11 a.m. And it started as a philosophical discussion, but out of that, some leadership emerged, and we started a conference at the Jazz Museum.
Doesn't all jazz conferences start from philosophical idea?
Yeah, it's true.
Everything in existence started in someone's mind as an idea. Everything we see, this microphone I'm talking into, started in someone's mind as an idea. And that's amazing.
And coffee fueled the Enlightenment, right? So, the idea of huddling, in the 1830s in the French Quarter, there were coffee shops. There weren't bars or taverns. It was called a coffee shop. And it was like you drink coffee all day.
That's the commodities that we had there,
and all
right?
night. And then in the evening, you had your wine or your liquor. You know what I mean? But it was like people got together and drank coffee because it was fueling their energetic ideas.
Man, this is such, so what we really love to do and what we have been doing on the radio for 43 shows, this is our first podcast, not first podcast, but this is our podcast approach to our message, which is putting positive vibes in people's lives. And in a sense, we're just making folks think positively so they can look and do more things. Like a person who invented the mic, he had to think positively and say, I'm going to create something that people can speak into, and it can like pitch the sound.
Alexander Graham Bell.
Yeah, the light bulb or the just a wheel or fire. Just a lot of different things. It starts from inside here, and a lot of the things that you've done, that you're doing rather, has already been like just forgotten about in a sense. But you're bringing it. Not only you're bringing it back, but you're bringing it back in such a way to educate people, to help people out, to go down those avenues again with the 5013, which is a great idea. I'm wondering when I'm hearing all this stuff, like, how do I get involved? Like, I got ideas, I got things I want to do, So tell me this: how can a person get in touch with you if they want to say, hey man, I've been thinking about this. Do you have the website? Can you? I guess we can't say the website enough for folks to get in touch with you, or folks to get in touch with your business, or.
You got to have my number, I guess. This is how it rolls.
They can contact you on the website, right? There's a contact us or something. There might
be a contact on there. I don't. It's funny, right? It's like how did Marvel contact me when they wanted to do the project? They reached out to me through Facebook.
Yeah. So
it was like
what's your Facebook, Instagram? I don't know.
At JS Makkos. That's it. My Instagram at JS Makkos. And same with my Facebook. I'm not like a huge social media person, but I use it as sort of like a dashboard. You can reach out to me there, and say, hey, I have an idea project,
or just attend one of these things, either the NOAI conference there in November or in December. December 6th.
Those are two things that are definitely coming up. Yeah, at the Jazz Museum for the Jazz Museum Gala, and I've really kind of have a good partnership with the Jazz Museum. They've just done some amazing stuff. I just did they just went off to France for the third year. They do a New Orleans French jazz festival in Paris. 3 days. It was great. Chawa was there and James Andrews was there. And,
I was about to say, I know that sounds like I'm in the south of France.
Joe Lasty was there, and it was cool. It was Sarah Quintana was there. There was a bunch of people there. It was a good vibe. It was like the French people just ate up New Orleans jazz, y'all.
So how does Jamie and I get in on that gig? Can we help you carry some things or some archives?
Yeah, I think this last year they did sort of like a call. If you guys want the inside scoop, they did a cultural experience where a bunch of people joined the entourage. But what I would do if I were y'all is just get yourself a cool hotel or Airbnb, for like a week. At the same time it's there, and just come and hang out, because the crowd and the there's this group called the NOLA French Connection Brass Band. It's all these French collective of musicians that have their own New Orleans style brass band. There's a Mardi Gras Indian there who lives right in the neighborhood, and it was a vibe.
We could just bring the setup here and go over there. We do a whole week of podcasts over there.
Easily. I smart, very good. I did there. I went there to document for them. I went there to engage with record shops. So I was talking to record shops, and oh man, I wish I would have bought you guys. I got like all these insanely cool French and German Louis Armstrong press 45s with the covers on them are so cool because it's just a different design style. You understand?
100%.
And you know the whole jazz concept of jazz and what jazz means philosophically and emotionally and mentally is completely different for the Europeans than it is.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of guys here. I mean, I guess that's still sometimes. I mean, you can speak to this more than I could, but you know, a lot of musicians, they were great here in New Orleans, but they would not get their flowers, so to speak, in such a way. But when they would go overseas, it was red.
Still very much the case.
It is, yeah.
Still very much the case.
Jazz sells really good. Like jazz and these guys know this. Like jazz sells really good in Spain and Portugal and Europe, and in a bunch of different places. As I was collecting these 45s, and I've got whole other episode, whole different story, but I really try to dig deep on trying to find. My belief is that in every form of media, including newspapers, things get stuck in a certain media form. So there's music stuck on 8-track that's never made it to CD, that never made it to record, that's never made it onto the internet. And in the 45 was a very specific era, 1949 through about 1990, and a little bit after. And of course, the punks kept it alive in the 90s and all that, and then it kind of came back. But there's music that's trapped in these records that hasn't ever made it onto an album or a compilation. It's just stuck on a 45 that maybe one musician recorded one 2-track 45 that was pressed by one record press plant, and maybe he got 500 copies, and maybe 50 went to record studios and record stations, and maybe he gave 50 out to his friends, and maybe 400 of them end up getting thrown away, or they melted in the garage,
or they just recycled them. A lot of times they would just cut the vinyl records back up and press them into a new record.
Yeah, melt it down and press it again. So like the 45 to me is representative of like this basically mid-century to a set around like the late 80s, early 90s, and there's stuff that goes later than that has all this cool music trapped into it, And I'm if I get one of these grants from Jazz and Heritage, I'm gonna do a little documentary about sort of I sort of jokingly say it this way, but this is what I'm like. The idea is the addiction to vinyl, because there's an addiction. You guys know.
God.
People love it, and it's like a thing, and it's like something about the sound and the warmth, and I want to really get behind the science
and
of
the
that.
Tactile nature of it is really a huge part of it. That you have to get up and change the record. That you are actively involved in listening to the music as opposed to just throw on an Apple playlist and whatever happens. Like you have to select a record, put it on the turntable, and when that side's over, you have to flip it over, or maybe you want to change records, but you have to make a choice about it.
And you're a part of the entertainment too.
Yeah.
Like you're a part of it. So one of the things that I was listening to Jamie talk about here and made me think about it was how interactive not only the history is, but how all the different like tentacles that you have once you get this information, whether you put it out through like the internet or whether you have a 501(c)(3) that you can help people. But I'm learning from you that there's so many different plethoras of knowledge coming through one thing that just you may look at. Like I may see this as a pen. You may go, well, pens were invented in, whatever year and the reason why it was made. And like that the history goes deeper, and that was the first pen, but then they had the second pen. And then there was another one from a pencil.
And then there's people who have a whole study about how the pen changed the world because suddenly everybody could write without being a monk.
And that's the part that I love about history, man. And that's the part I love about your brain, how I guess kudos to your mom and pops, man, because they really got you guys going on the right situation.
There's like this I don't really identify necessarily with Gen X, and I don't necessarily, or with millennial, but there's this place where like if you're born in the late 70s or early 80s, there's a zennial. So you're half foot in the door at the end of the Gen X. But we grew up in the analog world, and then as I rose into my adulthood, the digital world came online. So I fully knew the analog world as what that, like, I typed up my papers on a typewriter in middle school, and by the time I got to high school, it was like the computer was introduced, and so it was like, and then the internet came on. So getting back to the internet, the thing that why I'm so attracted to the physical media of records and the physical media of old newspapers, and why when I read an old newspaper, I learn so much and I submerge myself in it, it's because it's like a physical engagement with this type of medium. And I think the digital world has created a distance for us, a departure from the physical world into this virtual world. And I don't know if people remember as much as we used to. Do you remember how many phone numbers you remembered when you were a kid? Because sevens, you could remember digits in seven. Yeah. And it was like, I had 100 numbers in my head. And you probably remember, like, a kid you grew up with, you might remember his number because it might be still in your head from all those years ago.
I still remember my grandmother's number.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it was like, I remember the Times number. Like, we used to call the time, remember? I mean, like, I'm telling my age. Like,
call the time. Yeah.
And then look, another answer to New Orleans is like, you know, what school did you go to? And people say high school. But if someone says, yeah, they went to high school, they definitely from New Orleans. Same thing if it's like, you know, the United Cab number. Like
52297.
You know, that's that whole memory of the numbers. But like, I think you were born in like almost a perfect storm for the situation coming up next in that genre. Because if you think about someone who was in high school and they were studying computers, and all of a sudden that now is like they're already so far ahead of people who just didn't take the computer classes.
True.
But your mind was like, that typewriter was there and you were already ready. But then when it jumped over to the next thing, I felt in my mind, my thoughts, you already prepared for that. Like, and that could be something, the reason why you have this plethora of knowledge and feelings inside of you that want to go and do these things, because it works perfectly together. Some of that old school typewriting information with the new school, like computer or keyboard faster.
I had cousins who were all a little older, and they were either all like already off in their job or the military or doing their career. So I think like they were in it, and they didn't need necessarily. When you're a little bit younger, you kind of like really soak up the technology. We see young people now, a new thing comes out, and they are into it. They are onto it. They get it. Even like the millennials and Gen Z is like they have their own language, right? Like Gen Z has its own language. They have all these different words and things that they use.
Sure. I really like that although, you sought out and really explored the old printing press processes and the old media formats, that you're not a total Luddite, to where you're thinking about how you can integrate these things with the latest of the latest, which is AI. At this point, the latest of the latest is AI. But instead of being like a Luddite where you're like, oh no, I like records, I'm not into digital recording, or like I like newspapers, I'm not going to look at my news on the internet. You instead embraced it and said, look, how can we take this stuff that's left on old records or left in old newspapers and bring it into the digital age and have it as part of our conversation as a full culture?
Like straight up, like who is like, we've got like some insanely good people who made beats on their SP404, right? Okay, you got like Madlib, and you got Jay Dilla, and you got these guys. Where'd they get all their samples from? Old wax. All of it was old wax. They didn't use internet digital samples. So people still herald the best beats ever made are all samples from old vinyl. Yep. And so there's still a lot of potential in that world that is untapped. And so I'm seeing it as like, yeah, there's all this potential there untapped, but that makes it even more exciting and more interesting to me, because I think that as we move into a world where the prevalence of generative AI, right? Like they're saying like the internet now is like 30 or 40% generated already. The internet, like, have you guys noticed this? Like a lot of like, it's encroachingly creeping in with advertisements, and it's.
I've seen it in advertisements. I've seen it definitely in written articles.
Yes.
Because there's still a little slop left around. You can say, oh, they repeated that word, and that's like a red flag for me. Like unnecessary typos, wrong word usage. Like it's a red flag for AI slop to me.
There is some things that you see. So like I think as all that continues to happen, and more of it becomes integrated in like the creation of media, and like, oh, it's like taking jobs and all that, because it is. The more the truth and history and the actual primary sources are going to matter, because the primary sources are still going to fuel, like in that archive, whether it's the music archive or whether it's the newspaper archive, I look at that as surplus futures. Like there's a lot of source material to be able to go back and dig deeper and ask questions. And I think like a lot of a certain generation, I think they're happy with the way that they do history, but I'm not happy with the way that history is done, because I simply know that we're not getting at all the history. I could show you the comparison of the actual image of the Mardi Gras group that is in the public record, and then the one where we believe that we found William Faulkner, and it is night and day. Like we have the 600 DPI image that I could blow up and print it as big as this wall here. But the original one, you can't even make out details in anyone's face. So it's like this idea that like they just have to admit that the way that history was archived wasn't great, and that now we have all these brand new tools. And what we're doing is I'm looking at it like, hey, we have a whole new set of tools to do research and a whole new set of tools to access this information that we have. We're in a phase right now of great experimentation of using historic archives and what we can do with them using AI tools. And that's the wave I'm riding right now, is like, what are the most fascinating new tools that we can use, and using this old historical material to create something new that's based in a foundation that's rooted, not a mishmash of a bunch of sources that creates something that isn't the actual thing because it used a few details from all of the things to create something that's false. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So do you look at it like being able to check your math in a sense with the AI compared to the old history? Like, because you'll have that history sometimes, but then some things you don't really know. But then AI may pull up something and you're like, wait a minute. And then you go back and double check it as a reference and go, aha.
Okay. Once we have the 1 million pages scanned, we have the whole, just say it's 2027. We have the archives fully scanned. It's 1 million pages. It's going to make references to things that no human living could ever possibly make references to, because no human living has ever thought to go and search those references and cross-check them.
Or read the entire volume of the Times pick from the 1870s to 1930s.
Because no one living has done that.
Wasn't it even called the Picayune?
Picayune, yeah.
So I went to a lady's birthday Sunday, and she was 103. So we need to maybe chat with her, see if we can get some.
That's source material right there.
Yeah,
103, yeah.
103, dude, and she still teaches piano.
So 1922, she was born in. Then holy cow. Yeah.
What's funny, I remember numbers a lot, but you talked about 1914. My grandmother was born in 1914.
It was a transitional year because it was right before, it was the end of the Belle Epoque, which is like this era of humanity where we existed in peace kind of before World War I. There was an era of peace, general peace, world peace, you know.
Oh, okay.
And it's called the Belle, BELEPOCH, the Belle Epoque. And that's kind of like the World War I kind of ends that era. It's like the golden era of illustration. It's the era in which our money was designed, right? Like that illustration style with currency. Mm-hmm. It's like that era, that sort of high imperialist American era. That's like that illustration style. The Mardi Gras stuff from that era is lights out. You know, I can bring you over to the archive someday and show you the 1949 Mardi Gras stuff that's got Armstrong in it.
Okay, no problem. Let's do that. no problem.
We're already way over. We may end up splitting this into 2 episodes, but it's been great speaking with you. Could you recap for our listeners a little bit just about these events you have coming up?
We got the No AI conference at the New Orleans Jazz Museum, November 9th, 10th, 11th. Very cool opportunity to engage with the community of people who are working in and around the sectors of AI, There's gonna be over 40 talks. The registration fee is, can I say, it's like really cheap. It's $33. It's $33 for the whole conference. That's what we ask. We have donors and stuff that help us get some food and things. So we're gonna have we feed people every day. We give you snacks. We give you lunch.
On that note, how can people, like, they want to support you? Do they just go to any special website? What do you got?
Cash App, baby. No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, we just set up our nonprofit bank accounts and everything. So through
the nonprofit.
We're if you're interested in supporting Artifactor, you can reach out to me through one of my channels, through my Joseph Makkos. We would love some big support from people who are interested in helping that the residency grow. Really, that's what we want to grow this next year with the 501 is like really growing the residency and the opportunities for other writers. And then if you really want to come out to the Jazz Museum Gala, that's going to be on the 6th of December, and we're going to be doing a print reenactment, sort of like a tribute to Storyville. It's going to be pretty cool.
And you'll be running the
I'll be running an old
press.
Yeah, we're going to be running a 9x12 old printing press that I restored during the pandemic that we're going to be giving people out.
And how much is that?
Not too sure how much it costs to get into the gala.
December
It might be
check-
$100. It might be
the
pricey.
Jazz
yeah,
Museum
you can check it out.
website.
Jazz Museum's promoting it heavy right now.
December the 6th and November the
9, 10, 11.
9th, 10th, and 11th.
Joseph, we're going to have you back on to talk about your extensive music archive. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Yes, it is. And one thing that we always like to say to Jamie and I when we leave here, we want to give people some things that they can take with them. And the world is full of good people.
If you don't see one, be one.
And then there's six things that we say that people should do. That's okay. The first 3 is have empathy, humility, and compassion for yourself. It's always okay to do that. And then the last 3 is help people, always try to be better, and leave the world better than you found it. And I'm going to zoom in on the 6th one, leave the world better than you found it. You can do it with air, water, and food by finding historical objects and things and educating people, but also meeting a brand new person each day that you hadn't met the day before, having a good encounter with them and going off and doing it 3 or 4-fold, each one of you guys. Isn't that leaving the world better than you found it?
I love that. Yeah,
and it costs nothing.
And you can help us. It won't cost you a thing. You can like, subscribe, share our content, tell your friends about us. And hey, it's only good vibes.
And remember,
put good vibes in people's lives.
We would not be able to do this without our sponsors. We got our major sponsors like Frenchie Live, NOLA Motorsports, Scandalous Chocolates. We have advertising, and also Trenas is also a big sponsor of ours. And we want to thank those guys and want to thank you, man, because Jay, I call people by their initials. So Joseph, I call you JM, except that's okay. But I really this was refreshing for me, and hopefully our guests was refreshing to them, and we gave them enough information to reach out to you guys and support you if they want to, if they have the means to, or just show up and either on December the 6th or on November the 9th, 10th, and 11th over there. Because I know Jamie and I will be there, and I'm very curious. I'm very honest, and I want to be honest with you and tell you thank you for your time, because your time is important, and especially you, man. You got a lot of history to a lot of work out there, and keep on looking for those golden nuggets of information and history that you're giving everybody, because we need that desperately. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend.
Yes.
Only Good Vibes News Network.
Who that?
But we got a vibe, y'all. We got a vibe. I can tell by your smile that you're in my tribe. We got a vibe.